Hello everybody, welcome to the Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan. As ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to another episode of the AZ700 Designing and Implementing Microsoft Azure Network Solutions Study Guide series. I think I've explained at the start of each of these episodes recently what we're doing here, so hopefully by now you know. In the last episode, just before this, we covered the part one of the Azure Front Door topic, and we are continuing that with part two, and this is the final part in this topic. So let's get started. So we are still in module 3, as I mentioned, which is designing and implementing core application delivery services. Today is part 2 of the design and implement Azure Front Door topic. We'll talk about configuring SSL termination and end-to-end SSL encryption. Then we're going to talk about configuring traffic acceleration, and then finish off the theory, talk about securing an origin by using Azure Private Link in Azure Front Door. And I'll hand over to Mohammed Sajid, who'll do a demo on configuring caching. So let's talk about configuring SSL termination and end-to-end SSL encryption. So Azure Front Door supports end-to-end TLS encryption. Front Door TLS SSL offload terminates the TLS connection, decrypts the traffic of the Azure Front Door, and re-encrypts the traffic before forwarding it to its origin. The end-to-end TLS allows you to secure sensitive data while in transit to the origin while benefiting from Azure Front Door features like global load balancing and caching. Some of the features also include URL-based routing, TCP split, caching on edge location closest to the clients, and customizing HTTP requests at the edge. So Azure Front Door supports 3 versions of TLS protocol, which is versions 1.0, 1.1 and 1.2. All Azure Front Door profiles created after September 2019 use TLS 1.2 as the default minimum, but TLS 1.0 and 1.1 are still supported for sort of backward compatibility purposes. When you create your TLS certificate, you must create a complete certificate chain with an allowed certificate authority that is part of the Microsoft Trusted CA list. If you use a non-allowed CA, your request will get rejected, so make sure you keep that in mind. Finally, HTTPS connections, Azure Front Door expects that your origin presents a certificate from a valid certificate authority with the subject name matching the origin host name. Let's talk about configuring traffic acceleration now. So, traffic routed to the Azure Front Door edge locations uses Anycast for both DNS and HTTP traffic. Anycast allows for user requests to reach the closest edge location in the fewest network hops. And this architecture offers best round trip times for end users, and by maximizing those benefits of split TCP. So sticking with the sort of traffic acceleration topic, I just want to talk about that split TCP. So this is a technique to reduce latencies and TCP problems by breaking a connection that would incur sort of high round trip time into smaller pieces. So split TCP enables a client's TCP connection to terminate inside the front door edge location closer to the user. A separate TCP connection is established to the origin, and this separate connection might have a large round trip time, or RTT. So let's finish off by talking about securing an origin by using Azure Private Link in Azure Front Door. So Azure Private Link enables you to have access to Azure PaaS services and services hosted in Azure over a private endpoint in your virtual network. Traffic between your virtual network and the service goes over that Microsoft backbone network, eliminating exposure to that public internet. So Azure Front Door Premium can connect to your origin using Private Link. Your origin can be hosted in a virtual network or hosted as a PaaS service, such as Azure App Service or Azure Storage. Private Link removes the need for your origin to be accessed publicly, so much more secure. Within a single Azure Front Door profile, if 2 or more Private Link enabled origins are created with the same set of private links, resource ID and group ID, then for all such origins, only one private endpoint gets created. So an example of a single private endpoint is when it gets created for all different origins across different origin groups, but in the same Azure Front Door profile. Some limitations, the origin support for direct private endpoint connectivity is currently limited to storage or Azure Blob, app services, internal load balancers, and Azure, and obviously the Azure Front Door Private Link feature as well. So let's move on to the demo now. So I will be handing over to Mohammed Sajid, who is, I believe, doing a demo on configuring caching. So over to you, Saj.
Thank you, Shabazz. So in our previous video, we deployed Azure Front Door, both the classic and the newer offering as a standard tier. And we looked at caching, and you can configure caching when you're actually creating Azure Front Door. But if you deployed Azure Front Door without enabling caching, we'll take a quick look at where you can enable it. So in the classic Front Door, under settings, Front Door Designer, navigate to routing rules. If you scroll down, you've got the ability to enable caching here. So enable caching, query string behavior, caching every unique URL, ignore query string, ignore specified query string, includes specified query string. Very similar to the newer offering. And then just enable that and update. Select save. Just navigate away from here. So if you deployed a newer one, either as a standard or premium, navigate to settings, navigate to Front Door Manager, and under routes, select your routes that you've defined. And if you scroll down, you have again the same option, enable caching and the query string behavior. And if you want to enable compression or leave it as disabled, which is the default, also enable it or disable it. And that's how you enable caching, either in the classic Front Door or from the newer offering for Front Door Manager, standard or premium tier. Thank you for watching. Back to you, Shabazz.
Thank you, Sajid. Again, another really, really interesting demo. The links to the GitHub Labs are in the description. Also, a link to mine and Sajid's socials. Please do give us a follow on Twitter. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We're always happy to answer any sort of technical questions you might have. If you don't want to reach out to us, leave us a comment on the video. I'm always wanting to hear feedback around my content. Productive feedback, of course. If you don't like the colour of my jumper, there's no need to tell me. But yeah, no, again, I'm quite just overwhelmed by everyone's support during this series. Thank you very much. I'm glad it's helping people. If my content helps you pass the exam, please do let me know. It's nice to know that that people are getting use out of my content. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. Make sure you like. And yeah, up until next time. Goodbye.